Hello there and welcome to Business 24 here on iBrandTV, Lagos. I am Michael Nath, your host on the show. Today we'll be talking about mental wellness. Globally, businesses were normal, some quite booming. That's before the outbreak of coronavirus in 2019, which adversely affected most businesses. And on the other hand, positively impacted on some others. Surprisingly, it was so. Well, today we're going to talk more about this and go right into the topic. I have with me here to make this happen here in the studio, Dapo Daramola, a management and business consultant. You're welcome to Business 24.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege being here again, coming to discuss with you.
Nice to have you again.
Thank you.
Yes, before the outbreak of coronavirus in 2019, thereabouts, businesses were thriving. But with the outbreak of coronavirus, most businesses went down and there is no likelihood they're going to come up again. We'll come to that later. But let's start by trying to find out to what extent coronavirus, COVID-19, affected businesses.
Coronavirus, COVID-19, actually started in 2019, late 2019, in other climates, in Wuhan, somewhere in China.
Yeah.
But because it got to a stage, it now moved to the other parts of the world. And we had our first index case with some guy that came to one of the companies in Nigeria and in Ogun State, and boom, started spreading like wildfire. However, because the index case was in Lagos, and Lagos had the capacity to manage it, it was something that we didn't know. Nobody had a knowledge of it. So before we knew what was happening, it became something else. Businesses had to shut down, and when businesses started shutting down, it meant that they started having revenue dip in business, and their cost was high. So after all that whole experience, the country had to embark on a lockdown. And our country is a cash-based economy. Day by day you work, you get paid, and it's not like other climates where you live on credit and then you pay later. But here is cash-based, cash-driven. So it affected business, and business had to downsize. 3 things happened in business. They had to downsize completely. Some people lost their job completely. Some had partial loss of job. They told them to stay at home. Some had wage cut. So in fact, some were out of business entirely. So it had a negative effect on people, and that effect metamorphosed into us not preparing for this kind of day. We don't have savings culture. There were no safeguards for employees, for workers working. They didn't have savings. They didn't have some sort of national security that they could embark on. When I mean security now, financial security, like you have in other climates, where you have social security. That's what social security they could embark on. So people were thrown into mess, literally. So churches had to come up to help, to give members palliatives. Politicians came, government came, local government came, state government came. Well-meaning Nigerians, corporate giants came to see how they could pushing the effect of what happened then on people. And you see, in all this that happened, the people that had the worst hit were the workers.
You mean this, like civil servants?
Civil servants, employees of all organizations, workers generally, whether private or public.
Okay.
Because you had wage bill that was affected. Your salary was affected.
Oh, sure.
But your expenses kept going higher and higher. So there was a disparity. So they couldn't meet at any point. And it ended up having effect on their mental well-being. Now you're sitting at home. There's a lockdown. There are some people that if they don't go out, they can't eat for the day.
Sure.
Informal sector, they can't eat for the day. So
Those who live on daily wages.
Daily wages.
Yeah.
You know, they go to my 12, they carry things, they go to garage, they do things, they go to enter Marwa, Molue, conductors, and all that, you know. So it became a big problem for them. You know, when they go out in the morning, no matter how much they hustle, that's what they do, street hustle, they come on and put something for their family to eat. But right now, without having those guys, you know, those guys is another segment. Then for those that go and earn monthly salary, it was no more there. So you had, fine, you know, schools, but some schools embarked on virtual learning. You know, it was not easy for everybody. Parents had to get gadget devices. You had to get data. You had to get light, because you must have light to run those devices. So, of course, like you said in your intro, it was a doom for some people, while it was a boom for some people.
Yes.
The digital business went up. Those providing digital
astronomically.
And, you know, data.
Yes.
Data became big. Medicine became big. Even organic substances like ginger, garlic, turmeric. You know, people were beginning to make different. People became pharmacists.
Concoctions at home.
So they felt, look, let's have a way out. There was no literature anywhere. There was no drug, no medication. So people were beginning to prefer indigenous alternative to ensuring that they had this. But, you know, so that we don't deviate from the main thing.
All right.
The mental wellness issue is, here you are, you earn 100 naira a month. Your rent is 50 naira. Your school fees for children is 60 naira. Your upkeep for the house, feeding, is another 100 naira. Now, by the time you put all that together, you do a summation. You have like 250 over 100 naira you're earning initially. But now that 100 naira is no more there. And then you're at home.
And the debts keep accumulating.
Kept hitting at you. So now you're at home, you're working remotely. You don't have good power supply. You have to provide light. You have to buy data. You have to be responding to your office. Your office was at home. So businesses passed the expense of power, data, Wi-Fi to the employees, but they didn't increase salary. So you're at home. Madam comes and say, honey, darling, NEPA recharge has finished. And you see your bank alert. What you have there is maybe 5,000. NEPA recharge has finished. Nobody was looking at the digital TV. I mean, I don't want to mention names.
Okay.
Yeah, the pay TVs.
All right.
Nobody was looking at them. So NEPA has finished. Maybe water, seaway has finished. Gas has finished. And at the same time, your son is saying, Daddy, school gave us assignments. I need to go to class on WhatsApp, and the phone had an issue. The battery is not good. And then your boss at work is asking you questions. How far with that report? Is it ready? And then your client is also demanding, and you are in the middle. So a man knowing who we are, we're social animals. We cannot sit down, we are restless. We want to do things, you know, we can't put us under control experiment.
Yeah.
So we're restless. So you have all those things hitting at you in one spot called home, because you can't go out. So it begins to drain your brain. You begin to have, you know, heart problem, your heart is beating. How do I meet all these things? If you are out there at work, it's an escape route.
It is.
You can reach out to
interact with people. Yes.
Talk to, can you help me with the raise there? But now everybody needed money. Even the churches felt it. Those things, we were living in an ecosystem that was dependent on each other. But what COVID did was to take us from that natural ecosystem to a space, a digital space, where we didn't see anybody. It affected business, it affected everybody. It affected organizations. Some people who were into entertainment went to get expensive gadgets worth billions, thinking that, okay, I will recoup this money back. Boom, they got this money, got facility, and those things were at the pot when COVID started. Now they're going to pay demurrage.
Wow.
Like now they can't even recoup because there are no events anymore.
Yeah.
So you're sitting at home. So it was for the mental wellness, mental health issue was across board, from HNIs, from highly net worth individuals, from top management people to middle management, even to the operational people. So you find out that it also had an adverse social effect. That was when rape cases got on the increase.
Yeah.
You find a man that goes out to do things with all the pubs, he was not there. So you find any minor pedophiles, they became
an idle hand.
Exactly.
That becomes a devil's workshop.
So the social vices increased, everything increased, and everything was taken on the man. The man became an endangered species.
Right now, you've always talked about these things like using past tenses.
Yes.
Are we still experiencing it? What's the state of affairs right now?
We still have it there, but it's not as bad as it was. Economy is beginning to come back. The last, as of yesterday, GDP, there's a good story. NNPC made profit. GDP is improving. Does not mean it will translate to cash directly.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while, but we now have activity running. Initially, everything was on shutdown. Everything was on shutdown. So we now have activities coming up. The top incident officer for Lagos State, the governor, was always there to give us real-time online situations of what was happening as regards COVID. Isolation centers were full. Kits were getting more expensive. And every time there was this on releasing the lockdown, easing it off, the way we run into town, the gains we had,
vanish.
We just go living recklessly. So it's something that we cannot go away with. That's come to stay. We just have to learn to adapt and manage ourselves, our coexistence, cohabiting with the knowledge that we are not free as we used to be.
In fact, that's going to bring us to the next question now, which is how to adapt to the situation.
Well, adapting to this situation is...
because it has come to stay.
It has come to stay. Adapting, in terms of adaptation, adapting to it is different. Different in the sense that we need to understand that things we were doing before, we can't do anymore. Take, for example, organizations used to go for conferences.
Okay.
They used to have seminars. Everybody would travel to Abuja. Like Lagos can have 500 people going to Abuja, or even more, 1,000 or more going to Abuja for a conference. Now you don't have to go for that conference. You can sit in your house, connect to Zoom. They do AGMs on Zoom. That was how they could, and it was good for the banks. They were not running generator 24 hours. So when the issue of they declared so much profit came up, it was just simple science. You're not running full operation. Digital services, USSD, or transferring money, all the 50 naira you're making on every transaction. You load credit, you pay. You transfer money, you pay. You receive money, you pay. All those things were going into the revenue. They were becoming revenue for the banks. So they didn't have much of expenses because we're not running
around
full operations.
Yeah.
They weren't putting on generator. Their cars were not on the road. Their pool cars were not on the road, so they are not refueling cars. They were just paying salaries. And they downsized too. Some banks downsized. In fact, there was a bank that they didn't know, I think they were on Zoom, and the MD of the bank gave so much money and they were sacking people.
Now, you've been talking about the banks, as one of the institutions, that benefited.
Oh, I mentioned.
Yeah. Now, what other aspects of business, also were favorably impacted upon by COVID?
The telcos had a good revenue regime, because everything we're doing then were based on telco. Based on data. We're buying data from the major telcos, and even the other supportive one, the ones that have the fiber optics, and so they had so much money, those giving that services. The medical and pharmaceutical companies too made a good kill. And of course, logistics, the guys were the ones moving things from point A to point B. So the business thrived then. But of course, That business is oversaturated now. I can tell you for free, because there was an alien service, 2 or 3 of them, that a government policy affected them. So they now began to run logistics because they already had a backbone. We only have some of these organizations making money. The time we have now that we're trying to come back, then we are beginning to see another variant called
the Delta variant, which is even more dangerous, more deadly than the...
Because, mind you, this is not what you can see. The safeguard is use your face mask, keep a social distance, ensure that your hands are always washed, or you have a sanitizer, okay? And all that were safeguards to ensure that we minimize, we curtail the spread and the impact of this new variant.
Now, I was glad when you were talking about the measures, the steps to take, to avoid being infected by COVID-19. But our people, talking about most Nigerians, don't seem to believe that coronavirus is real.
There's a school of thought that ran with that narrative, and they're still running with that narrative.
Yeah, sure.
That, see, this thing is scam. But I tell you, those that are, I was privileged to go to the isolation center at that time, and I tell you, it's real. Corona is real. But I'm not saying that some people are carriers. It can't hurt them. They are carriers. They have it in them. But they're not having any symptoms. They're not having any feelings. They are living normally. But if you don't have that antibodies,
or the immunity
to
yes,
once it hits you, and you have underlying ailment, then you are a victim. Do you understand? Look at most of the government officials that died, and some celebrities, high network individuals that died during that pandemic. Many of them didn't have access to their medical services that they used to go into, because it was a lockdown. The aircraft, the airline business was on a lockdown. Nobody was flying anywhere in the world. So people had to keep their vaccine to themselves. So you find out that when you are medical tourism, you're always traveling for medical help. Mind you, the people in Nigeria, they don't have a medical record, they don't have a medical history. So you're just bringing you at the last minute when you've had an encounter with the virus, and that had shattered your entire system.
Okay.
People in isolation centers.
All right.
And they're looking for kits, they're looking for oxygen, they're looking for, to even get the test, we're not doing full testing. And then the people that are low there, they will tell you, there's nothing, I beg, nothing, are we, but COVID is real. And whether we like it or not, those that are being prey to COVID, people that have lost their family members, I've lost friends due to COVID. I've lost family members, and it's real. But the fact that you are walking on the street and you're still strong means that it's not that you're too strong, you're isolated. It's just that you should be careful. You should be careful.
Well, you had it all there. COVID-19 is real. If you don't know it by that name, another name for it is coronavirus. It is real. Whether you've seen people who were directly affected or not, it is real and happening. Just in case you're joining us right now, you're watching Business 24 here on iBrandTV Lagos. And today we're talking mental wellness. Right here in the studio, trashing the issue is Dakbo Daramola, management and business consultant. All right, before now, you've talked about the steps the individual has to take, to avoid COVID, being a victim of COVID-19. And remember, we're still talking about the wellness. Now, this is a global phenomenon. Let's narrow it down to Nigeria right now. In all this, what is the role of government? We've been talking about businesses that were adversely affected and all that. Is there any role the government has to play in order to make sure that those who were adversely affected could come up again and begin to live a normal life?
I know that government on its own at one time tried to help business by the way, I mean, some had even the tax we paid. Corporate tax at one time was affected. They tried to see if they could reduce, there were some waivers on tax. There's some statutory payments that government felt, look, you don't have to pay now. Okay. In fact, there were some stimulus that government gave out at the federal level that if you're affected, come to send a mail to this email address and get in touch with this office in Abuja. And I know some businesses got some palliatives, some stimulus or some things that helped their business to cushion the overhead they're carrying.
Let me just chip in something there before I forget about it, and that's talking about the palliatives that you mentioned. There were this incident of people breaking into stores, warehouses where palliative where is it kept?
They were kept
hidden.
Okay.
Hidden away from those who actually needed these things. That was a very, I don't know.
I think that's the bad side to the being called man.
Was it deliberate or was it actually intended?
It's not that, we can't say now with certainty that whether it's deliberate or intended. But the truth is, at that time, when politics begin to play a role, or when you just feel you want to play God, mind you, most of these things were given by corporate Nigerians in trust to some people in government. And government will always trust some individuals to execute some task. But some of them did not. And an hungry man is an angry man.
Of course.
And people saw when you're bringing things in, and then when you give people palliatives, you give in a street of 50 families, you just give them little things, and you say,
can you imagine?
And that's it. And you have a warehouse filled, and you see these things are perishable.
Up to the roof.
Up to the roof, they are perishable. So it gets to a stage when you are pushed to the wall as an hungry man, you will take on anybody that comes. And I think the reaction they got then was because the people are tired, people are hungry, and they had information. Mind you, some people are watching over that warehouse and they have a family.
Of course.
And all they need to say is, look, we are close to the promised land.
There is something.
Yes, we are close to the promised land, and that's it. So the mental wellness, how do we help ourselves out of mental wellness? First, you have to look for a place where you can work remotely. Okay, you don't have to work at home. Then try and socialize. Then
you're now speaking to the individuals,
yes,
right?
Yes.
How to tackle the issue of mental wellness. Yes, okay.
Yes. Itemize your job, your schedule, day by day, so that you don't lose track, because you're no more in an organized environment, a structured environment you're used to working.
Okay.
So have an itinerary. You do try to socialize, maybe in the evening, with observing all the protocols for COVID, the safety protocols, and then at the same time, look, you don't have your remote working location doesn't have to be your house. You can have an eatery or a good hotel where they have good light, and then you can take your gadgets there and work from. So you are not in one spot. That sitting on one spot is a problem. And then try to mingle with people, but
socialize, you mean?
Respectively. I mean, responsibly.
Okay.
That's the word. Yeah.
You've had it all there. While doing all this, remember to observe all the protocols. You know them. Thank you so very much, Dapo Daramola.
Thank you so much.
You've done justice to this subject.
Thank God.
Okay. And for you out there, I want to believe that you learned so much from today's episode of the show. The pleasure of hosting it has been mine. Until we come your way again with another very interesting edition of the show. This is Michael Nath. Thank you very much.